What's up, world, and welcome to another episode of the Super Investor Show. I kind of didn't want to start because what the conversation I was having offline before we went live was incredible with this gentleman. He got me thinking way too far in the future where my mind isn't even focused on today, but for good reason. If you're not familiar with the legal legend, Jeremy Hogan, you will be by the end of this. Well known in the XRP community for making the abstract lawsuit that's taking place and putting it in quite simple terms with his educational and very, very entertaining videos. So it's your chance now to see a side to Jeremy that you may have never seen or heard before. And we're going to be talking a lot more about his investing philosophy, when he actually came into the crypto space, maybe what he was doing in the past life, and how he is thinking 1,000 years ahead. So with that being said, please welcome our guest for this evening, Jeremy Hogan.
Jordan, Harry, how are you?
All the better for seeing you, sir. Now, I have to say, before we begin, that for you to come on here and talk about investing, I know you keep putting yourself down, but I want you to put that aside and understand that there is someone watching right now who's going to benefit massively from hearing your experience. So
Yes.
for anyone who doesn't know who you are, Jeremy, how would you define yourself?
Well, for an occupation, I'm a partner at Hogan Hogan. Of course, I work with my wife, who is the head partner, and she's actually next door, probably listening in as I'm talking right now. I'm a lawyer. I've been a lawyer since 2003. And as a lawyer, I've pretty much done all there is to do. I've litigated cases, gone to trial, filed bankruptcies, filed immigration paperwork. More recently, I've represented some crypto projects and helped them out with certain things. So that's what I do from a legal side. And in my personal life, I'm a husband and father and son and all those type of things as well. So.
And it's all those other things which we're going to be talking about today. Although you are well known, and rightly so, for what you've achieved in your professional career, I'm more interested in you as a human. So we'll start, Jeremy, with the first question, which is, what is your superpower? And you've already hinted on it, mentioning your wife. I'm not shy. I talk about my fiance quite a lot. But why would you say that your family is your superpower?
Well, from an investing perspective, I really sucked at it when I was younger, to be honest. You always think that you have more time than you do. And, you're in your 20s and you're always thinking, well, when I do this or when I do that, like for myself, I got out of school and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was a teacher for a couple of years. And then it was like, well, I'm going to go to law school. So then it became, well, when I become a lawyer. And then it became, well, when I own my own practice, and there's always something that you're waiting for, I think, in the investment life. And I think, the one message I wanted to get out really is you don't have as much time as you think. You're going to blink and you're going to be 50 years old like myself, and it will happen, God willing. So now is the time. Now is the time to do things if you want to. And I wish I had done that earlier. And the reason I said that my family is my superpower is because in investing, at least, is because when I was younger, I could survive and I could make do for myself. I was very stress-free, really. I had an apartment, I had a car, I had a 95 Thunderbird. It ran, it was fine. I had everything I needed, and it was very easy to sustain my lifestyle and do what I wanted to do. I could travel, I could do everything, but I wasn't saving anything. I wasn't investing anything for the future because it was just me, and I was able to kind of keep myself rolling. So, when I had a family, with my wife, it was one thing because we were still able just to kind of maintain. But it was really when I had my kids that I started to think, well, listen, I need to start thinking about long term, because not only now am I thinking about myself, I'm thinking about others as well. And, God willing, they're going to outlive me by many years. So you want to leave something for them, and even as a son or a brother, now that my parents are older, they've stopped working. And so I realize also that they are relying on me to provide for them, possibly in their older years. So it really, family is the thing that takes you outside of yourself and makes you think about something bigger than just you and lunch and that trip that you want to take to wherever. So,
I think what you were referring to was conditional happiness. This idea that I'll be happy when X, I'll be
mhm.
happy when we achieve this. And what you find, as you've already shared from your experience, is you spend so long waiting to be happy once you achieve it. As you rightly said, and you speak from a position that I can't, because you are nearly, if not double my age, you can confidently say, look, Jordan, you will achieve X, Y, Z. And guess what? The mountain will only get higher. So I'm assuming now you have new goals. And what would that new goal be in terms of investing, Jeremy?
Sure. So, when you hit my age, you start to really think seriously about retirement.
Mm,
The second thing that you think about are your children. And the third thing that you're going to think about are your family, your brothers, your sisters, your parents. So all of those three things come into play. And the easiest one to think about is your own retirement, because the one thing I didn't realize is how much money you're going to need to retire,
yeah.
right? So I actually, but this morning I was just thinking about it, and I went online and I went on one of those compound interest websites. And I thought, man, if I had just started when I was 25, because I put in $10,000, I put 8% interest, which is what you'll get, on the stock market on average. And I
Mhm.
think I put in like $250 a month, just $250 a month. You could do that, right? And you hit compound and it comes out to about, in 40 years, that comes out to $1 million. Well, there's your nest egg. And
Mm.
really nowadays to retire, $1 million is not enough. It's not anywhere close to enough, really. It's you're looking at more like $2, $3, $4 million, millions of dollars to retire. You need to have available to you if you want to live any sort of comfortable lifestyle.
And can you
So
break that down? Sorry to jump in,
yeah.
Jeremy. Can you break that down? Because I don't want that to go over the head of some of the audience. And I know you're not, but of course, this might be the first time people hear you. And
Mhm.
a statement like $1 million isn't a lot of money. Some people say, oh, he's pretentious.
Yeah.
I know that's far from the truth. Just break down why is $1 million not enough money to retire with a family?
Sure. So the first thing you want to think about is what is basically your government retirement, let's call it. Okay, here in the States, it's Social Security retirement, right?
Mhm.
That generally comes down to around 1,200, maybe $1,500 a month. And we all know now that what that's getting you as far as a place to live is a one-bedroom apartment, right?
Yeah.
Depending on where you are, maybe a one or a two-bedroom apartment. So that's just going to cover that, right? Now, if you have $1 million in some kind of, let's say in the stock market or in a bank account somewhere, the general rule of thumb, I think, is that you could take out 3% every year, 3 to 4%, and maintain your the balance that's in there, maintain the principal, right?
Sure.
So 3% of $1 million is $30,000. So that comes out to what, about $2,000, a little more than $2,000 extra every month,
Yeah.
right? So now you're talking about living on $3,500 a month for
Yeah.
the rest of your life. And you could do it, but you're not going to be able to help anyone else out. That's the key,
Yeah.
right? So if you want to help your mom, if you want to help your dad in their retirement, if you want to be able to help your children when it's time for them to get married or when it's time for them to buy a house and they don't have enough money to put down, you're going to need more than $1 million in the bank. It's hard to think because you think $1 million is a lot of money, but it really isn't. So yeah, you really need to have that compound interest available to you. And I think that's the one thing I wanted to share, because I know that the people that watch are probably younger. And that's one thing I always regret, is that I didn't put that $10,000 and $250 a month in starting when I was 25, because now I'd have $1 million just from that. And that would be kind of a base. And then the next 10 years, I could make, maybe another million, maybe another two, maybe another 10 million if XRP does well.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Jeremy, breaking that down in such a way which it should make people feel insecure in a good way,
In a
insecure
good
in a
way.
good way. Because one, the stereotype, we don't talk enough about money. We definitely don't talk about retirement enough. And so to actually say $1 million isn't enough, and many people are sat on a investment who watch this show and are thinking, wow, oh, I need $1 million to retire to live a very basic lifestyle.
Absolutely.
Puts things in perspective. So we know we're not talking right now you need that million. We know there's time. You talk about XRP, and talking about time, for anyone in the XRP community, they'll assume that you were here from day one. I know that isn't true. So when did you first buy your first XRP and why?
Sure. So in 2018, I think is when I opened my Coinbase account. So that was, I bought, Bitcoin, Ethereum. I could just kind of let it sit there. I was just kind of interested in what it was, really. And then that's all I had. And then I think, I saw the lawsuit come down so that would have been December 2021.
I
God,
think
time's
it's coming up to 2 years.
yeah, it's crazy how fast time's going by. So anyway, I saw the lawsuit come down, and I looked at it, and I started to think about it because I was going to do a video on it, and I researched it. And after like 2 or 3 weeks, I realized, this is not an easy case for the SEC. They've got some issues, especially when I saw some of the things that Ripple had filed prior to the lawsuit. And that's when I went out and I think I bought my first XRP at like 30 cents. So it was just a couple weeks after when the price hadn't really gone back up again a lot. Because I realized this is one thing is stick with what you know, right? When you're investing, don't go out and buy, some exotic security of some exotic stock that you don't really understand. And one thing I understand is litigation. And so I thought this was a perfect investment for me because this is something I understood. I could look at litigation and I could say, well, this guy's going to win, this guy's going to win, right? And I took a look at that and I thought, well, I know that the price has been very high in the past and now it's been decimated because of this lawsuit. But I think that they have a really difficult case to prove, the SEC, and that's why I bought it at that time.
Powerful. Thank you for sharing that antidote. Have you shared that before publicly? Do people know about that?
Here and there, but never in a concise, statement.
Powerful, powerful. And what a way that your worlds collided. How did you hear about the news? Were you in, I know you said 2018 you bought some crypto, but it doesn't sound like you were too active in the space.
That's a good question. Honestly, Joy, I don't remember at all. I just don't remember. But it was a big thing. It was a big deal, and I remember it. I just remember thinking this is a really interesting case. And at that time, I had never, I don't think I had ever done. I mean, I had been involved in corporate work, but never done any securities work or securities law or anything like that before. So literally, the Christmas break of 2020 was the first time I ever looked at the Howey case and figured out what it was talking about. So that kind of pulled me into this world, and it is interesting how one morning, Saturday morning, during Christmas break, changed my life because it really changed the trajectory of everything that has happened the last 2 years.
Good. And changed it in a good way, right?
In a good way. The one thing I've always done, and the one thing I'll say is not superpower, but one thing I've always been able to do and been interested in is different things. So I'm a little bit of an anomaly in the legal world because most attorneys eventually find a niche and they just stick to it and they do it. And, it's difficult. When you ask attorneys, what do you do? I do bankruptcy law. I'm an insurance defense lawyer. They're very niched and they don't stray out of it because it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And the one thing I will say that's good about me, I think, is that I'm not afraid to get out of my comfort zone and do new things. And during my 20 years in practice, I've probably done 6 or 7 different areas of law, like pretty intensively. And sometimes that's uncomfortable because you're sitting next to a guy who's all he does is bankruptcy, and you're up against him, and you've only done bankruptcy for a couple of years, and here you are with this guy who's done it for 30 years, and that's an uncomfortable place to be. He knows the judge very well, and you don't, and all those type of things. But I've never shied away from doing new things. So, digging into the crypto space, the legal issues surrounding it, and securities issues surrounding it was really something that was very interesting for me. So I really enjoyed, doing that.
Thank you for sharing that because it will be transferable for many people who are multidimensional. That's probably how I'd term you, Jeremy, multidimensional. You don't necessarily fit into one box. You probably wouldn't want to, nor do I. And you should take pride that it doesn't take you 30 years to learn what he or she knows, and it takes you 2 years. So hopefully now you see that as a superpower, that it doesn't take you as long to be as good.
That's right. Yeah, just a super. It's just about commitment, doing anything new. So, even in investing, I've always had IRA accounts and 401k accounts and that type of thing, and it's only been like in the last 10 years that I've really taken control of those, and I invest in particular stocks, and I keep 50% in something very stable and safe, and then 25% in something that's not so stable and safe, and 25% is just like gambling money, right? Just the stock is like a penny stock and you're just going to go for it.
Mhm.
So I've taken control of that, and investing in crypto, same thing. I just had Bitcoin, Ethereum, and now I'm going into all these more exotic kind of tokens and doing some more interesting things that might have bigger paydays. So I just think if you're going to learn something, it's all about commitment, and you really got to just throw everything aside and commit to doing it. Do you know about the that kind of sect of Buddhism in Japan where they have the 7-year marathon?
I don't, but I love my philosophy. So please tell me more.
I think it's called the Kai Hogyu or something like that. You mind if I just Google it really fast because it's going to kill me?
And whilst you're doing that as well, something I'd love to discuss, Jeremy,
Yeah.
after you discover this, is how do you encourage your children, assuming you have children, to get into investing? For me, I don't have kids yet, but I know I want them to start learning principles about money and good money habits. So once you find what you're looking for, I'd love to know what money habits you're instilling or looking to instill in them.
Gotcha. Okay, it's called the Kai Hogyo.
Okay.
And it's a form of Buddhism where they have what's called the 7-year marathon. So they're Buddhist monks, and they commit to performing a 7-year. They call it a marathon, but really what they do is they wake up before everyone else wakes up. So they're still doing all of the things during the daytime that other monks are doing. Yeah. They wake up at like 3 or 4 in the morning, and every day they have to, I think they have to walk or run around this mountain about 100 kilometers or 30 kilometers. So it's really far. I'm sorry.
That's fine. It's good to see you're busy and in demand.
Yeah. And they have to commit to do it for 7 years. Wow, it's like nonstop. Sorry. And so for 7 years, they have to perform this ritual where they go around the mountain 30 kilometers. And the idea is that they commit to it. And if they don't do it, or if they don't finish, traditionally, they have to kill themselves. So, yeah. And the idea is that you're committed, you're so committed to something that if you don't finish it, you're going to die. And that's the kind of commitment that you got to bring to a lot of things, right? If you're gonna do these things.
That woke up a lot of people listening, that's for sure. And I can draw on a past experience with this charity. It was a negative charity, and I'll explain what that means, which was you announce accountability that, hey, everyone, I'm going to lose £10. And then you have to put, let's just say £10, you have to donate it, or shall we say you lock it in an escrow to, say, the Ku Klux Klan or some organization that you do not want this money going to. And if you do not lose £10, it's locked in escrow. That £10 goes to the Ku Klux Klan. I'll have to find this charity. Sounds similar, but not as extreme, which is how fear can be a motivator. Is that true in your life? That is something you
absolutely saw? I think fear is a great motivator, really, and it sounds horrible, but it's just the truth. I mean, you have fear of dying, well, then you're going to get healthy. And this was true with my brother a couple of years ago. He was a little heavy, and he went to the doctor, and the doctor said, things are not looking good for you. You got you're diabetic, and you got this and that. And he went out and he ran a marathon in 1 year, lost about 50, 60 pounds. So, fear could be a great motivator, but maybe not as much as love, right?
No, first and foremost, well done to your brother. And he's still keeping healthy, he's still maintaining that lifestyle.
He's put on a couple pounds back, but he's still doing pretty good. Yeah.
Oh, good luck to him. I'm sure you're proud of him. I'm sure you're very proud.
Yeah. Well, he ran a marathon. I mean, he went from, 250 pounds to running a marathon. So the amount of commitment it took for him to do that, I thought was very nice. Very good.
I'll say thank you for sharing that,
Mhm.
because that is an intimate antidote, but one which draws heavy on the point you're making, which is
Mhm.
when you commit, and especially when you're accountable in such a way. And I think that's why people love doing marathons, because you are raising money for a cause. Assumably, he raised money for a
Mhm.
cause.
Right.
Yeah. Now, if you don't show up, yeah, that hits home. That hits home. And
Yes.
thank you, Matt. I'm glad I'm not the only one that felt how powerful that story
Yeah.
was.
Back to children.
Yes, family.
That's a good question. That's a great question because, kids go to school and what do they learn? Reading, math, PE. No one teaches how to take care of yourself financially. And it's to me, it's a glaring problem in the U.S. educational system. I just couldn't believe that no one's teaching kids how to do this. I think what we're doing is we're letting our kids in on our own personal finances. So, for example, I give you an example that's a very recent one. I have a 9 and a 13-year-old. So they're right at the age where they can kind of understand money, but because we're lucky and we're well off, they've never really had to struggle or want for anything.
Hmm.
Pretty much, I want a new t-shirt, it shows up the next day, right?
Yeah.
That's been their experience in the world.
Yeah.
So we decided that we have to kind of start to integrate them into the thought process. And so what we did is we have a trip that we want to go to. We want to go to Greece in the next couple months. All right. Well, we figured out how much that's going to cost, and then we looked at our budget and we went through this with the kids. We said, this is how much money we bring in every month. This is how much money we're spending. We're not
Wow.
saving anything, so we can't go to Greece. So how are we going to change that so that we can go to Greece? And we made it very simple like that, right? So we started an online spreadsheet, and we keep track of every penny we pay. Every time we go out to eat, we keep track of it, and then we could see that every month we're saving $1,000. Okay, we got enough now. We can save, and then when it comes time for us to leave, we'll have enough money to go. So we brought our kids into our circle, me and the wife, and made them help us figure
Wow.
out the budget to make sure that we could go.
That's so powerful, because I can draw on my own experience with that, where only recently did I find out how much money my mum was making when I was younger. Very similar, didn't go without, but single mother. She had me at 49, so she's 74. So be careful, any of you lot who are in your 50s.
She had you
um,
at wait, she had you at 49?
I'll say that again. She had me at 49.
She's the same age as my mom. But
Yeah, I
they just
know.
turned 74, yeah.
She is young at heart. And only recently did I find out she was making, and if I put it, I was going to say pound and dollar, it's not much different right now, but if
The same.
she was making about $2,200 a month, um, looking after both myself and her. I never knew that we were living off that money, because I know how much and how far that money goes today.
Yeah.
And I take my hat off to that woman. Um, and I understand there's a lot of parents probably watching this right now who maybe do feel slightly embarrassed to share with their kids how much money they do or don't make at the end of the month. So, can you, if it's possible, Jeremy, speak to any parents who aren't well off, as a term you used, to say, actually, no, you should still sit down with your kids and say, look, mummy and daddy, we do have debts each month, and this is why we can't do X, Y, Z.
Well, I might not be the best person to answer this because we've been blessed, we've been very lucky, but
Yeah.
I will say that it hit me recently that it's so important that you bring your kids into your own finances, because that's the best way to teach them how to do how to control their finances when they get out. So if you don't do that, you're really hurting them in the long term. The danger, of course, is that you make your kids scared, because kids don't have a lot of perspective on things. So
Yeah.
if you tell them we only bring in this much money and we're spending more than we're bringing in, and if we don't change that, we're not going to be able to pay our rent. In their minds, they take it very literally that you're going to be out on the street, with asking for money on the street corner, in a
Yeah.
month. So
Yeah.
I think the only thing is to be a little bit careful if things aren't doing well or they aren't going well. maybe instead of talking about your own finances, maybe make it in an easier to digest way. Like, for example, just keep it easy with just give them like a set allowance every week or something. That let them figure out their own finances. That's another thing we were thinking of doing, but to be honest, we just kind of got lazy. So there might be something to be said for like giving a child $10 a week and let them spend it however they want, because they'll quickly figure out if they spend it all on candy the first day, well, then they're not going to be able to get whatever they want when you go to the store later on.
Remarkable. Thank you for being transparent and saying, actually, I'm probably not the best person, but this is what I would do if we were in such a situation. There's plenty to draw from. So thank you for speaking to both, parties when it comes to those conversations within a family. As we've covered quite a lot, and I'm sure there's so much more we can cover with family and why that is your superpower, I want us to touch upon your weakness as a superpower. As a super investor, I want to touch upon your weakness. Because the weakness is more interesting than the superpower at times.
Sometimes, yes.
So what is your weakness, Jeremy?
My weakness. All right. So the first thing, there's a couple. So the first thing is really, they say take emotion out of investing. I can't do it. I just can't do it. Yeah. So, I'm always, I fall for the hype. I fall for what's the opposite of hype? FUD.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I fall for the hype. I fall for the other things. And so, for example, let's just take XRP. If I see on Twitter that a lot of people are saying this horrible thing's about to happen and this horrible thing's about to happen, it affects me and it will affect my investing. I think that's one thing. The second thing is I haven't really done a good job at automating what I do. And I think if you know that you are an emotional investor and you just can't take the fear of things out of it, then I think that the thing to do is understand your own emotional and your reactions, and then to automate things so that you do take it out, put your stop losses in and that thing. And I've just been a little lazy to do that. So I wish I could have done more of that in the past, especially. I'm getting a little bit better at it because I know, for example, let's say XRP goes to a certain price. I've already kind of planned what I'm going to do when it hits those prices and stick to your plan. In the past, I haven't quite done that yet. And so I open myself up to bad investment decisions.
Isn't it beautiful, though, that you are still able to bat again? It's a philosophy I've started to, in my very short investing period, is if you make this investment, can you live to fight another day? Can you stay at the batting crease? And I think the batting crease, is that a baseball or a UK cricket term? Batting crease.
Battle, what is it?
The batting crease, the crease where you bat from. Is that baseball or cricket?
That must be cricket.
There we go. I know we speak different languages.
Baseball, it would be for the batting box, probably.
There you go. Cool. So yeah, in the UK, we have a crease. We have a little line. Gotcha. So the idea is, can you stay on that crease? Are you out or can you keep going? Because with cricket, you can play for hours until you're out.
Yeah.
Whilst I know baseball there's a certain limit. Yeah. So you are still at the batting crease. Even though you've made the mistakes, you still can fight to live another day. You touched upon how you're starting to overcome that weakness of emotions, in your opinion. What practical things are you doing day to day other than setting your sales strategy to help you overcome those emotions?
I have a journal that I keep track of all my investments in. And when I have like certain, I don't put in stop losses like, in my trading accounts, but I have them written down at least. So I know, if this stock hits this, I'm going to take out 50%. If it hits that, I'm going to take out the other 25% and leave in the rest. I think putting something down on paper is the first step to really to doing something. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more because when you can make those decisions, when you're not emotional, when it's not exciting or scary, it then is the second part, which is sticking to your plan.
Sticking to it. That's the hard one. But if you got it written down, that's half the battle, right?
To finish with, because we've covered so much about you and about what people at home can do. When we talk about emotions and we talk about time, we talked offline how when something goes wrong today, for example, your car tire goes flat, you're late to the meeting, hey, you even lose that job that you're trying to get. It feels real and it feels massive right now in the moment. But
Mhm.
as you grow older, you even forget what happened 2 years ago on May the 19th. At your half a century age, Jeremy, what was one thing that you thought was true when you were younger that you now know is a lie?
It's a good question. So I think the thing I realized hitting the 50 mark is when you're young, you always think there's going to come a time in your life where you get it and you're fine and
Mm.
you're wise and you're smart and you know everything and you're not going to be nervous about anything and you're going to just be, the boot up there, like, in peace with yourself. And the thing I realized is that that time never comes. And you never, you think of yourself at 50, you think you're going to have it together, right?
Mm.
I'm going to have my act together. I'm going to know things, this and that. And it just never really comes. You're always going to feel the way you feel now. You'll be 75 years old and you will feel like the 25-year-old Jordan Harry of today. You'll know more things
Yeah.
and you'll understand more things, but the nervousness and the hesitation and the fear never go away. But maybe that's a good thing because it's the nervousness, the fear, the hesitation that drive you on to do new and better things, right? So uh, it's always relative where you are in life, but at the same time, you never really get old in your head. It's only the knees and the joints that age.
Jeremy, on that note, we have to leave it there in such a beautiful way because I don't want to add anything onto that. And it's something I hope everyone remembers because people remember the most at the beginning and at the end. So I hope everyone can just meditate, chew on what you just shared about how the way you feel right now, when it comes to fear, excitement, chances are you're going to feel the same about something else when you're 50, 70, 80, 90. And
Yeah.
how, as you said, chances are it's a good thing. So embrace it. So
You,
thank you
you
for your time,
Well,
Jeremy.
thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I hope I've been able to give something that's helpful in the investment world. I'm very comfortable talking about legal stuff, but when it comes to investment stuff, I've never really thought highly of myself to tell anyone these things. So I'm glad that I went on here because it's something that's out of my comfort zone, and so that was good. I like doing that.
Beautiful, beautiful. And likewise, Jeremy, because this is therapeutic. When I get to speak to someone like yourself, I always pretend like no one's listening, but if they are,
Mhm.
I hope they're 1% better. I have 110% confidence that is the case this
All
evening
right.
here in the UK. So thank you again. It falls short by saying thank you.
Thanks, Jordan. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And we'll see you when we see you. Take care, Jeremy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was arguably one of my favorite interviews. Why? Because if you know me, I'm a stoic. I love philosophy and I bring my philosophy into my investing strategy. And so when we talk about death, we talk about life, and we think about our problems that we are battling with today and have to understand that these problems we're struggling, they're going to pass. We will find new problems to face. And that fear that Jeremy talked about, that keeps you alive. The difference is you need to know the difference between irrational fear and danger. Could your portfolio be liquidated if this project went to zero? Well, that's a realistic fear. And that danger is real as well. So, what can you do to avoid that danger? I, for one, especially now speaking with Jeremy, will go about my investing strategy thinking, can I bat another day? And I think if we all try and implement that, not just in our investing, but as we build a family at my ripe age of 25, but Jeremy's wise age of 50, there's a lot more to consider. And we shouldn't be scared. We should embrace it. We have time, whether you're in your 20s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, we have time to make change right now. So I will see you next week when we bring a massive influencer in the Hedera and more specifically the HBAR community because he coined a certain term the term H Barbarian. We are meeting the man, the myth, the legend, Coin Man, H Barbarian. So with that being said, let us know what you want to see next on the show over at Jordan with 2 N's, Harry with 2 Y's on all social media platforms. And we'll see you in the next episode. Ciao for now.